Welcome to Woman on Her Path. Every woman has her own unique path. But what does that mean? How does said woman know what her path is? How does she find the courage to follow her path? I am your host, Tiffany Cooper. I am a mother, energy worker, community herbalist, and bhakti yogi. By sharing my experiences and insights on my path, I hope to inspire and encourage you on yours. When we follow our path, we find the answers we need in life. Let's find answers together and create a better world for ourselves and those around us. Well, hello, beautiful listeners. Today is our first official day on Patreon, and we have some exciting opportunities coming up. Since it is also the first Friday of the month, this podcast is available on all platforms. For the rest of the month, each episode will be available to Patreon members only, with the chance to participate in group discussions, energy readings, classes, retreats, and many, many more things. And some of that many, many more things I would love for you to help me with. Please let me know what you would like to see more of. So going forward, the first episode, which is the first Friday of the month, will be on various platforms. Then the rest of the episodes for the month will be on Patreon. I am doing this to create an interactive, conscious community of supportive, engaged women who want to make positive change in their worlds, which will ultimately make a change for the greater world. We will have monthly gatherings to discuss the issues mentioned in the podcast. If you would like, that's only optional. We will also have group energy readings to gain insight into our individual paths. And again, that is also optional if that's something that you would like to participate in. This will also be a chance for you to ask questions directly to get help with challenges that you are dealing with in life. We all need community, and it is so important to belong to an uplifting community. So check out my Patreon page. The link is in the show notes. And let's get started on supporting our paths. So today's episode is an interesting one, at least I think it is. It's actually based on a listener question that I got a couple of weeks ago. The question is, what is energy work and what are energy readings? So I decided to do a full episode on this because it is a humongous topic. And it's an even bigger part of my life. In the episode on meditation, I know I shared how I came to the path of shamanism, but I don't think I've explained what I mean when it comes to energy work and specifically energy readings, which may be mysterious to most, since it is a title that I came up with because most of the terms frequently used for reading energy seem too trite for my liking. Titles like empath, astrologer, psychic, medium, clairvoyant, etc. None of those terms really encompass the vastness of what people who use these modalities do. So let me begin to break things down. Everything, everybody is connected by energy. Our thoughts, our words, our actions, everything is connected through energy. When people use mystical or psychic modalities, generally they are reading energy, hence my name for it, energy reading. It may be the energy of someone who has passed on to another dimension, what most of us refer to as death. Wait, let me stop there. Do you believe in reincarnation? Okay. If not, I suggest you pick up Bhagavad Gita or find some way of learning about the cycle of samsara, repeated birth, life, and death. In a simple way, I will explain it like this. Our souls are encased in human bodies. The spirit soul is eternal, but as we know, the body is temporary. When the body expires, the soul leaves until it returns to the material world by being born in another body. That is simplified samsara or reincarnation. It is a very, very deep and wide subject that I won't get into now, but I suggest you look into it. It will explain so much about your life. So anyway, getting back to my original point. When a soul leaves a body after the body has expired, it goes to another dimension and sometimes can communicate with those of us who are sensitive to their communications in this dimension. That is called being a medium, communication with the spirit world. Those communications are energy that come to us by various means, and we use our senses, minds, and feelings to decipher that energy. So next I'll talk about being an empath. An empath feels the feelings and emotions of others because feelings and emotions are energy and they are constantly being projected by all of us. Some of us are sensitive enough to connect with, to feel, and to understand the feelings of others. An especially sensitive empath can feel energy of inanimate objects as well. Not that they have feelings, but one can connect with their journey, how they came to be what they are. An empath does not read body language or facial expressions. That is not even necessary. For an empath, a person's energy speaks so loud that they cannot even focus on what the external material body is doing. The next term I'll talk about is spirit guides. We all have spirit guides, whether we know it or not. Like mediumship, connecting with spirit guides is connecting with the energy of someone who is not on this plane of existence. So it's someone who is not on planet Earth, not in the physical sense like we are. We all have spirit guides, and sometimes those guides are souls who have been on this planet or in this dimension before. And sometimes they are spirits who never cross that threshold. So they may be other beings that that we connect with that are not necessarily or who have not necessarily been in a human body. The next thing, or the next three terms I will talk about is clairvoyant, clairsentient, and clairaudient. So the prefix clair comes from French, and it means clear. So someone who is clairvoyant, voyant meaning having to do with vision, means that they have clear vision. They see clearly, meaning that they see beyond the dense, heavy material things that surround us. Next is clairsentient. And a clairsentient person is someone who feels the energy around them very clearly. And clairaudient is someone who hears communications through the energy around them. So people use clairvoyance and clairsentience and clairaudience to receive messages and to interpret things that come from other dimensions, whether it's other beings or what I like to call, just I used to call the universe, that energy that you're not exactly sure where it's coming from, but it's out there in the ether and it's coming to you. So that's those three terms. The next thing I'd like to talk about is astrology. So there are several different types of astrology from different cultures and backgrounds. But a good astrologer does more than just read your birth chart according to the symbols and placements of the planets. Astrology is a huge science that can take a long time to master. But when an astrologer has the ability to read energy, they easily see what a chart is saying and what lies beneath the symbols and placements on the chart. So anyone who uses any of these abilities must do so with integrity, so important, with integrity and honesty. If they do not, there will be a price to pay. They will eventually lose access to that energy connection or to their abilities, or their abilities will be weakened or faulty. Also, having any of these tools in your tool belt is a great responsibility, because with these tools, we have the ability to affect other people's lives. Therefore, it is a tremendous responsibility that if you have any of these abilities or any of these tools, you need to use them carefully. I cannot stress that enough. It is actually very hurtful to me when I see or hear of people who do have these abilities using them in a way that is harmful or hurtful to others. That's very dangerous. And as I've already mentioned, there's always a price to pay when people do that. So if you are tuning into any of those things for yourself, please be cautious. Please be responsible. And most importantly, please be loving. Use them with love. If you have seen my business cards, you will have noted that my title is listed as healer. I'm doing air quotes here. Yes, my card lists my title as a healer. I meditated on this word for a very long time because it's not exactly accurate, but it does serve as kind of comprehensive shorthand for the services I provide. You see, a person who does real healing work does not call themselves a healer because we are cognizant of the fact that the energy we use comes from a source way, way beyond ourselves. It is not just ours. We have just been given the ability to tap into that energy, to channel that energy, and to use it to help others heal. Furthermore, with the grace of God, everyone heals themselves, but a healer is a guide with some incredible tools to help lead you to that healing. Anyone arrogant enough to think that they are all powerful on their own will have no power in no time. So underneath my title on my card is a short list of what I do. And I think it says in this order, Reiki, shamanism, yoga, and herbalism. So Reiki and shamanism are modalities that are given to you by others. I already explained Reiki in another episode, but here I'll just again say that a Reiki practitioner channels energy from the universe and passes it to others through their hands. You have to get attuned to Reiki by a Reiki master. You cannot become a Reiki practitioner without being given access to use it. Now, shamanism is a much deeper training and topic. Shamans have been known throughout history as healers. They are often referred to as medicine men and women. A true shaman does not call themselves a shaman. It is a title given to them by the village or by the peoples that they serve. Again, as shorthand, I sometimes call myself a shaman in hopes that it will give someone an idea of the work that I do. It's often very tricky for me to find terms to explain the work that I do because, first of all, it is just the realm that I live in, so I don't spend a lot of time labeling or putting words to it. However, I use these terms directly because, again, for me, it's shorthand for letting other people know what I do. So a shaman works in many different ways, but basically a shaman uses their connection with a higher or an alternate plane of existence to help others heal. Sometimes that is through techniques that channel energy, and sometimes it's through the use of herbs or plants. In the lineage of shamanism that I trained under, a shaman is made into a waka, or a walking holy place, in order to carry the energy medicine to help others heal. Now, you are all familiar with the word yoga. Many people think of it as exercise or meditation. Yoga is actually so much more than that. The word yoga comes from the Sanskrit word yuj, or some people pronounce it as yuge, which means to bind or to yoke, basically to connect. Yoga is meant to connect us with something higher than ourselves. And that heals us on the spiritual level, which in turn leads to healing on so many other levels. The source is always the spirit. So when someone who is a true practitioner of yoga and regularly makes that connection for themselves, they can give it to others by teaching or simply by being in their company. If you have been in my yoga classes, that feeling you felt is real. It is not your imagination. It is my duty to transmit energy to you, my student. That is my service, and it's one of my greatest services in life. Then there is herbalism. Pure feminine magic. We are intrinsically connected to the plant world. We have evolved with them, and they offer us so much of their medicine. When you connect with plants, they speak to you on an energetic level. Herbalists use their connection to plants to help you heal. So all of these modalities combined allow me to help guide people through their own healing process. As a natural nurturer, I am particularly suited for this. I was born with a distinct awareness of and connection to energy. And throughout my life, I have honed that connection to the best of my ability. I continue to work on it every single day. And I love that we are living in a time when so many others are opening up to energy work, energy readings, energy connections as well. By connecting to the energy that is such a tremendous part of our lives, we can all be healers in a time when we need it most. There is so much more to our material existence than we can see with the naked eye. For me, it is humbling to know that. To know that what is apparent to me through my blunt senses is only a fraction of existence. Yet human beings tend to think that we are the rulers of everything around us. We think that we can own land and sometimes even people. Wars are started in an attempt to claim land and people. Governments try to control land and people. If we all recognize that we are in relationship with land and people, then we could reciprocate accordingly rather than try to dominate them. When we realize that we are surrounded by energy and that there is energy connecting us to everything and everybody, we show up in a different way in life. With this knowledge, we can develop a reverence for our environment that will help us act in the best interest of everything and everyone around us. Energy has a vibration. When we tap into that vibration, we can feel the connections of everything. It's one of the reasons music can be so satisfying. When we listen to music, we are hearing it through its vibration and, of course, the vibration that's happening in our ears. And when we sink deeply into that vibration, then the music touches us in a powerful way. If you like to listen to your music turned up loud like me, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. We all have our own personal energy fields around us. In shamanism, we call it the luminous energy field. Some people call it an aura. No matter what you call it, it can be detected. It is real. It is important to keep our field clean in order to keep ourselves mentally and physically healthy. Our energy field is a place of comfort, peace, and safety. It also has its own vibration. It sends that vibration out to the world and other people feel it. Usually, they don't even know it. Some of us project our energy stronger than others. That is why we notice some people, but not others. Now, I want to share about one of my most precious experiences with energy. It was when I had my most precious connection with the energy of the divine. It was the first time that I stood before deities in a temple. I had gone to a class at a temple in New York City, and as I entered the temple room, I immediately saw the precious glowing deities upon the altar. Two absolutely stunning marble figures dressed in lovely clothes and draped with flowers. I felt so attracted to them, but I hadn't had experience with deities before, so I didn't know exactly what to make of them. I sat down in the class, which was off to the side of the altar. The class was beautiful. Though at the time, the only Sanskrit words I knew were the names of yoga poses, the class was learning to chant the Sanskrit verses of Bhagavad Gita and another gorgeous text called Brahma Samhita. I tried my best, of course, but I stumbled over the words and botched it all up. Even more challenging was the pull I felt toward the deities. I wanted to look at them, but I didn't want to be rude and not pay attention in the class. I found my attention being pulled away toward the deities over and over. So I had to keep telling myself to wait patiently until the class was over. Then I could see them. Once the class was finally over, I wanted to rush over to the deities, but then I realized I didn't know how to approach them. How close can I get to them? Should I bow before them? Is there a certain mantra I should say when I approach them? I had no idea what to do. So then I looked toward the teacher of the class because I thought I would just ask him what to do. But he was flanked with people full of questions, and I couldn't possibly wait my turn to talk to him. I had to see those deities now. So I slowly made my way to the front of the altar and stood right in the middle of the two deities, Radha and Krishna. As I stood there admiring the details of how they were dressed, especially Radharani, and the sweetness of their faces, I suddenly felt the sensation of energy coming out of my heart chakra, going straight to the deities. I couldn't believe it. I thought, is this what happens when people stand in front of deities? They experience this energetic connection to them? I can't believe all this time, for thousands of years in India, people have been doing this while we have been completely ignorant of it here in the West. Then I wondered if what I was feeling was the energy of all the people who had come to the temple and poured their hearts and their prayers out with faith into these deities. Just as I finished that thought, something even more amazing happened. I felt the energy coming from the deities and entering my heart chakra. It was a completely reciprocal exchange. At that moment, I knew where I belonged. I later found out that not everyone has that experience with deities. I also learned that we all have a reciprocal relationship with God. We just don't know it. Deities in a temple are not just stone statues to decorate the space. There is an actual highly esoteric installation process that happens when deities are put onto an altar. After many prayers, chants, and rituals, the energy of the Lord agrees to enter the deity and fill it with divine energy. Shortly after my experience with those deities, I happened to be in a church where I went to stand before some of the plaster statues there. All I can say is deity installation is real. Deities are not about idol worship. They are God's or Radha Krishna's way of mercifully giving us an opportunity to see and spend time with them. Of course, God is always with us, but for some, it is more potent to have a way to actually see and worship God, to deepen our connection, among the many other ways. We all have an individual relationship with God, and we all have our own certain ways to engage in that relationship. My first meeting with those deities was many years ago, but to this day, they are deeply in my heart and all over my home in frames. I would just like to make a statement about energy, or more specifically, subtle energy. There is a natural misconception that the different modalities of using energy are spiritual. We think that because we have not been exposed to real spirituality, so anything mystical seems spiritual to us. We have not studied, we don't know much about spirituality, we don't know much about the spiritual world. Energy is subtle and seems not of this world, so we account it to the spiritual realm because we don't understand that there is a subtle realm that is actually material and not spiritual, like the plane that we inhabit. It's material. Spirituality deals with the spirit soul. It comes from the realm of the divine and not from a material existence, whether subtle or not. Everything in the material realm is made possible by the spiritual realm, but it's not exactly of the same quality. So energy work is not spiritual. It is on the level of subtle energy. Spiritual work directly involves God. It involves the spirit soul. And now that public service announcement has been made, let's move on to some subtle energy work with tarot cards. Woohoo! Yep, it's that time. We're getting close to the end of our podcast. So now we will have our promised tarot reading. And so let's see, our query tonight or today is about how should we go about connecting with how should we go about connecting with subtle energy in the coming week? What should we do? So I've already shuffled and I'm just going to 4 cards. I'm being told 4 cards. Oh, these cards look familiar. Okay, this is interesting. What was that reading about? Okay. So I remember these cards in another reading, with the exception of one. One of them looks unfamiliar from a particular reading. So anyway, let's get into it. So we're asking the cards how or what we should do to help us connect deeper with subtle energy this week. And the reason I'm asking that is because from what I can gather, we are all in need of some healing. And subtle energy work is so perfect for that. It is completely tailored to help us heal on a material level. So the first card we got here is the Ace of Pentacles. Oh, and this one's very clear. It is saying that we need to find an energy worker. Duh. I think that's very obvious, but that's okay. But it's being funny, I see too. Yeah. So that's the first thing. We need to find someone who does energy work, and we need to find someone. Okay. Yeah. Now I see. Not only who does energy work, but is particularly skilled in energy work, who has a strong connection with the natural world, and also kind of like what I said before, works with integrity, and more importantly, works with love or works through love. So yeah, so that's the first thing we need to do this week, to find or to connect deeper with subtle energy. The second card I'm seeing here is the World. And again, this is funny. It is all about love. It's all about love. And in addition to being about love, this card is telling me that when we find our energy worker who works through love, we want to find an energy worker who is very balanced in their approach. So not someone who is so transcendent that that they're not connecting with us as receivers of energy work or those trying to connect with energy work, but someone who, like I said, they're not so transcendent that they're completely away from us. And they're not so grounded that they have a hard time or struggle with reaching subtle energy. So we need someone who is a master of both of those realms. Oh, okay, the Two of Pentacles. And she is very strongly telling me that we need to connect with okay, there's two things coming through here. So one of them is that we need to do the work, or at least put effort into connecting with a higher realm than the realm that we are inhabiting. And at the same time, we need to work with someone. The strongest thing to do is to work with someone who is from an indigenous practice, someone who is represents an indigenous practice, someone who's representative of an indigenous culture, or someone who works deeply with an indigenous practice. So it doesn't necessarily mean that they are of that particular indigenous culture or group, but they work with a practice that has strong indigenous ties. Ooh, and that's really good stuff. I love, ooh, I'm just surrounded with the feeling of, this energy of warmth and deep love. And now the final card that we have for this reading is the Three of Cups. And this is also indigenous, but it's also about finding connections with women who are joyful in what they do. So it's connecting with women who have these talents, these tools in their tool belt, these abilities, some would call them gifts, to work with energy, but they do so in a joyful and supportive way. And again, they're also indigenous, which of course, the strongest energy work comes from indigenous cultures and not necessarily from new wave. I guess the only way I could think of to describe them. Not necessarily from these new wave ways of practicing energy work. Energy work is energy. It's subtle. And at the same time, it has to be grounded in something very, very deep in order for it to work on a very, very deep level. So there we have it, our tarot reading for the episode, for the week. So get out there, make your connections, find indigenous people who are doing this work and connect with them. Spend time with them. And also, as I said, put an effort into opening yourself up to other realms, understanding that the source of those realms is ultimately the spiritual world. However, these subtle energy realms are meant for us in the material world, and they are material practices. So yes, women, we have reached the end of our podcast today. and I enjoyed spending this time with you. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. I also want to say thank you so very much for being with me on this journey, for being here today. I hope that I will get to meet some of you in the interwebs, on the internet, in some of my group sessions. And if I don't get to meet some of you, that's okay. Just know that I am sending out so much love and so much gratitude to you. Please join me next week. I have another interesting episode coming up. I think I'm going to start delving a little deeper into the things that I do in terms of energy work and in terms of just a little bit of everything. Just going to continue on the path that I've been on. Please feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions about anything, any requests for anything. Reach out, feel free. Please email me at womanonherpath@gmail.com. You can also contact me now through this Patreon page. Hooray! We have a Patreon page opening up so many more doors for all of us. So have a beautiful, beautiful weekend and an even lovelier week. And I will talk to you all next Friday. Bye-bye. Thank you so much for listening to this show. I hope you found something useful. Like everything in life, we can take what we need and leave the rest. Please feel free to contact me with comments or questions at womanonherpath@gmail.com.